Hey guys, Cyber here, and I'm bringing you how to replace a motherboard. Before you even break out the toolkit or money, you got to assess the situation and take a look inside the computer. Some things to keep in mind are if your case is from a major vendor, it might not easily house a replacement board, and if it's from a small form factory PC, you won't be able to put a larger ATX motherboard in it. Make sure your case supports the form factor of your new board. Many older motherboards require a 20-pin main power cable from your power supply, but recent boards require both a 24-pin connector and a separate 4-pin one. Your motherboard won't work if improperly powered, so a new power supply could be in order also. Step 2 is cleaning up. Once you have all the correct equipment, it's also a screwdriver, it's time to begin. Disconnect the PC's power cable and everything attached to the rear panel, which is part of the motherboard. Then turn the case horizontal to take on the interior. Ground yourself, either using an anti-static wrist strap or by touching the metal chassis. Then remove any cards in your old motherboard's expansion slots. Remove the screws securing them to the chassis, then pull the cards straight up and out. Place them on a clean, static-free surface. Step 3 is swapping out. Now for the switch. Locate the screws holding down the motherboard, usually 6 or 9 or somewhere around there, and remove them. Once done, the motherboard will lift out. To protect it, place it in an anti-static bag your new board came in. Next, pop out the I/O panel. The metal rectangle with the port cutaways attached to the case. Your new motherboard will come with its own, designed for the board's port arrangement. When inserting the new I/O panel, apply enough pressure around the edges to hear clicks. Step 3 continued. It's more convenient to install the processor, its cooling fan, and the RAM before installing your new motherboard. RAM is easy. Lower the levers on the RAM slots, line up the notch in the module with the slots protrusion. Then press the chip until both levers lock. If you're using 2 RAM chips, put each in an identical colored slot. This dual-channel architecture increases performance. Processors are more complicated. Intel's and AMD's designs vary, sometimes between their own lines. But today's processors and sockets are keyed, so that it's hard to orient a CPU incorrectly. That said, never force anything. If your processor resists when you engage its locking mechanism, you could damage it. Once it's in place, apply a layer of thermal paste to the CPU and attach the fan to the board, covering the CPU. Don't forget to plug in the fan's power cable to the board's CPU fan header. If your new motherboard is the same size and shape as the old, you shouldn't need to adjust the standoffs that keep the motherboard from touching the case. If, however, you're upgrading from a smaller board to a larger one, you might. Place the motherboard in the case, lining up its holes with the standoffs. Make sure there's a standoff for every hole, and vice versa. After the standoffs are settled, gently place the motherboard, fitting its ports through the I/O panel. Once the holes are directly over the standoffs, secure it using the screws removed earlier. Step 4, working backwards, just reconnect all the components you disconnected in Step 2, and slide each expansion card into its appropriate slot and screw it down. Cover any unused openings with a blank spacer. Most interior cables are keyed to connect only one way, so replacing them should be easy. If you're unsure where certain connectors live on the new board, consult your manual or forward diagram. Take special care with the USB and FireWire cables. Mixing these up could cause system crippling problems. Step 5, finishing up. Close the case, reattach the rear panel cables, and turn on the computer. Should boot and you'll see your new motherboard's splash screen. Follow the instructions to enter the BIOS. There, check the drive and RAM configuration to make sure everything's recognized. Set the boot device priority and enable the USB 2.0 or PCIe support if your board requires it. save any changes. Then, assuming you aren't reinstalling Windows, boot for the first time. Windows will need to install drivers for the motherboard, which most of which it can and will do automatically, though you might need the CD that came with your board. The CD might also contain additional drivers such as the Ethernet port or other helpful software, so keep it handy. If you've gone the Windows reinstall route, put your Windows CD into the optical drive, direct the BIOS to boot from it, and follow the prompts to reinstall the OS. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more. See you in the next video. I got my information from this also. See you guys.